What happened when Rebecca went filming in Kensington Palace? What are Catherine's style secrets? And what is the royal protocol over nail polish? Hello and welcome to Palace Confidential, but this is not just any old Palace Confidential, it's a fashion special. I'm Jo Elvin and here this week the Daily Mail's royal editor Rebecca English is with me, as is a Palace debutante Claire Chisotti, who edits the royal pages of the Mail Online, and the Mail's star columnist Sarah Vine. It's been a while, Sarah. Welcome to you all.
Yes, I don't know why I've been invited back for the fashion special because as viewers will know, I am the last person to have any sort of fashion sense.
Available, cheap, we're desperate,
the other people couldn't come,
I'm joking. We're delighted to have you. Now, just a quick reminder to subscribe to the Daily Mail Royals channel if you don't already, and let us know what you think of this show in the comments section below. Because if you're interested in royal fashion and you let us know that there's the sort of things you want to talk about, you can tell us and we'll try to give you more of that stuff. Does that sound good? Stick around though for a very exciting behind the scenes trip that Rebecca took inside a royal palace. That's coming up in just a couple of minutes. But first, let's talk about someone who, it won't surprise you, is an absolute firm favourite when it comes to fashion in the royal family. She's the most commented on amongst our viewers, and that is, of course, Catherine, the Princess of Wales. And she was out of the public eye for a while, but now she's increasingly back. Now, Rebecca, have you noticed any change to her fashion, or is it sort of like just classic Catherine, more of the same?
I wish I could start the show off on an exciting front and say, no, it's all very different. But I do think it is classic Catherine, more the same. And I think where she's got to in her life, a lot of royal women do, is she's got into her groove. She knows what works. And she's taken, I think, a great leaf out of Queen Elizabeth's way she's dressed, in the fact that you are there and you need to be seen.
She's definitely got a lot more into the vivid, solid colours, hasn't she?
Exactly. They look amazing. I think one of my favourite moments with her was one of the state visits, and she stepped out of the car and she was in this incredible red dress and this huge red hat, and you knew she'd arrived and all eyes were on her. Yeah. And I think that's when we like her best. We like that really kind of bold, powerful dressing.
It's interesting, isn't it, Sarah, because it's bold and it's stylish and it's fashion forward, but there's a timelessness as well.
Yes, and didn't she recently say that she wasn't going to tell the press the labels that she was wearing?
Oh, no, that's so boring.
Oh, that is a whole storm in a teacup.
No, but that was very much her signalling. I don't just want to be seen for my fashion. I don't just want to be a fashion plate. I have these other things that I do, and yes, of course, I wear clothes, and yes, I look nice in clothes, but it's not all. It's not everything. And I think that's quite a brave thing to say. Annoying for you, because now obviously you have to guess what she's wearing. Can you do that?
There's a whole.
Is there a Shazam?
There's a whole. Yeah, but there is an internet.
Is there an app?
Yes.
I have a fashion writer who, within about 10 seconds, can ID any outfit that Catherine's wearing.
Yes.
Thank God for her.
Yeah, because no, she's not.
I'm pretty good. I spotted the Zara the other day within about 3 seconds of it dropping on the screen.
But is that because of your naughty lunchtime shopping trips?
Maybe, but it's possibly because I've been doing royal pictures for 30 years and it's literally what I eat, sleep and breathe.
Did you start when you were 5?
Basically.
Nice joke.
But she doesn't, she recycles a lot of it. I'd say it sounds a stupid thing to say. Everybody recycles their clothes. Everybody wears their clothes again and again. But she doesn't always buy a new outfit for an event, does she? So she knows what she looks. I mean, she has got the most incredible figure. She's very narrow, which is really lovely. We were just talking about this earlier. Like you, this is not meant as an insult. She's quite flat-chested, which is much easier to dress
she's a model.
than bosomy ladies, as the three of us can attest. So things look good on you. And especially, it is a compliment, especially when you're walking or you're moving on camera. If you've got bosoms, everything flaps around and it doesn't sit nicely. Whereas with Catherine, it does. It looks she always looks very soignée.
She's tall, she's thin, she's every designer's dream. Her figure is to die for.
Well, you know what we say in Australia, which probably won't make the cut, that any more than a mouthful's a waste.
Yes, quite. I do hope that makes the cut. I have heard that.
Rebecca obviously hasn't.
Back to business. Claire, I was talking to Richard and Rebecca on the show last week about her Commonwealth Day service outfit and that beautiful bright red hat. Now, that wasn't new, was it? She's good at bringing out the old classics.
She obviously has someone who looks after her clothes, or maybe she does it herself. But the hat she wore the other day at the Commonwealth Service was actually first worn in 2014 when Prince George was a baby and she had him on her hip in New Zealand. We didn't really notice the maple leaf back then, and we noticed it the other day, and, you know, as a lovely tribute to the Commonwealth Day service. And it looked as good as new. And the coat she was wearing, she's already worn, I think that was the third time she'd worn that Catherine Walker coat. I don't think she's actually worn anything new yet this year. I could be wrong.
And I can tell you where she got that hat from. It's from Gina Forster, and it's a little shop just round near us in Kensington High Street. I don't think it's there anymore.
No, it's gone. It's moved.
But you know that she's just popped out, you know, during her own.
But it hasn't dated. It's in immaculate condition.
But isn't it just wild to think of
subscribe for more updates and enjoy
that wardrobe with the amount of amazing garments in there that might come out in their lifetime 3 or 4 times. Yeah. It's wild.
And you know, female members of the royal family are very good at doing this, that they will pick the right occasion for the dress. And I think I mentioned on a programme the other week that I remember Queen Elizabeth having some beautiful evening dress, and I was told that actually they'd made it from a bolt of fabric she was given on a royal foreign visit about 40 years earlier. Wow. And it'd been sitting there in the stores, perfectly preserved. And Angela decided, actually, you know what, let's make an outfit.
Is there like a big revolving wardrobe in the palace? I mean, where's all this stuff kept?
I have to say,
this is what I've always wanted to know.
I've always dreamed of having a walk-in wardrobe.
But you know those ones that you see in movies where it all kind of moves round?
Or in Clueless, where the picture comes up and you type in what the outfit that they want.
No, but they have amazing stores there.
And does she have a stylist?
No, she didn't have a stylist. I mean, she's got a good eye herself. Yeah. She's got Natasha, who's her kind of personal assistant.
Natasha kind of takes on the role as a stylist and assistant, and I think she's got a very good eye. And I also think Catherine's got a very good eye too. And I think between them, it's a very good partnership. There are royals that do have stylists.
You're all talking as if we all know who Natasha is. Who's
Natasha Archer?
Yeah, Natasha Archer. She was Natasha Archer. Her maiden name.
Married to a photographer.
Yeah, she married to Chris Jackson, now Natasha Jackson. But she's been with Catherine for years and started off as a personal assistant, but really helped develop this working wardrobe.
Who was the Queen's great dresser?
Angela Kelly.
That's it, Angela Kelly. So is she the equivalent?
I suppose so, yeah. I mean, obviously there was a different responsibility on Angela Kelly because she was working for a head of state, and obviously she would be in charge of the jewels and the tiaras. But yeah, Natasha's kind of, you know, Catherine's right-hand woman for stuff like that.
Quite a pressured role, even if peripheral, because we know, don't we, that the royals really do think very carefully about the meaning behind their clothing when they're out at public engagements.
Oh, I mean, the late Queen said, you know, you have to be seen to be believed. So she knew, as a very diminutive woman, you know, all eyes were on her, but she really needed to stand out from the crowd, which is why she went for those bold primary colours. I remember, I think it might have been Vogue years ago, doing this incredible front cover of a rainbow of the Queen's outfits. It was so iconic, and you could see what you mean, that you'd actually know from just an item of her clothing that belonged to her. The coat, the hat, and the handbag and the shoes. You also developed that way of bringing in maybe a national flag or national colour or animal or bird into what she wore in terms of the embroidery. She was very aware of these kind of subtle tributes to the kind of host countries or the countries she was hosting, and was aware of the power of fashion as a means of telling the royal story.
We have quite a good question from a viewer who's Margaret L. Hi, Margaret, who asks, it would be wonderful to hear some of the inner workings of the royals' daily life. And I've always been interested in who takes care of the clothing and accessories.
Well, they do have dressers. They'll often have a team, sometimes a team of dressers, but in Princess Anne's case, she just has one dresser and she does a lot of it herself as well. So they will be responsible for it. And they will obviously often suggest, look, we know the weather's going to be like this on a certain day, so, you know, this might be more appropriate, because obviously they don't want to have clothes if they're going to be out in the rain or inclement weather, they're going to look sodden.
But thinking of, we were just talking about Angela Kelly and looking after all of those jewels and hats and other regalia. Is there somebody doing that for Camilla?
Oh yes, she's got 2 or 3 people that do it for her. She's got her main dresser, Jackie, who's been there for years. In fact, she used to be the dresser for the late Queen Mother at Clarence House. That shows you how long she's been there, because there's an awful lot of trust placed in these people to help them get it right. Because
I mean, I think Jackie is obviously very good, because dressing Camilla is not the same as dressing Catherine. I mean, much different kettle of harder, I'd say, you know, and she's always looked, I think she looks amazing, Camilla.
Yeah,
I think
she
whoever
does.
dress, you know, she always looks fantastic.
So what's it like? Because you remember that great gossipy story about Meghan wanting a particular tiara and being told by Angela that she couldn't have it. Is there similar kind of hurdles for the royals to go through now if Catherine wants that tiara for a state visit, or does anyone know?
I probably would think that the person asking wouldn't be so, what's the word, difficult.
Right.
And Catherine, I would imagine, is very organised and would go down the proper channels like any other royal would do. Whereas I think that someone wanted to try the tiara on to try out with her new hairdresser, and I think that didn't suit the royal family's timetable for the tiara.
Right, that's not the way we do things around here.
Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. But I think Catherine is, I haven't met her, I don't know her, but I just imagine that she's incredibly polite. She's been brought up well.
And just sort of like understands protocol.
Yeah.
But she's also understands what works for her and what doesn't. Do you think, Claire, that she's really stuck to what we'd maybe call a safe set of designers?
I think she has stuck with Alexander McQueen, Jane Burton, because she's just a fantastic designer. Sarah Burton, sorry. I always call her Jane. I think that Catherine Walker has been a solid designer for her and was her mother-in-law's designer too. So I think there's a certain amount of honouring her mother-in-law in that. I think she loves the British designers like Amelia Wickstead. For the glamour, it's Jenny Packham. She's bringing in a few more. There's a Canadian-British designer, Edeline Lee, which a lot of kind of high-powered women are wearing that brand at the moment. It kind of really tells you kind of the way that Catherine is going.
It's interesting, isn't it, Sarah? Because obviously, whether she likes it or not, we love to see what Catherine's wearing, and it's interesting to see her being more confident and experimental, but alongside that and maybe introducing the odd new designer, you still have to tread a regal line, don't you?
Well, yeah, and of course, you know, if she's, again, going back to this thing, she's not announcing the clothes that she's wearing. She doesn't want to make it the focus of who she is, but she still has to look good and to an extent look fashionable as well, because she's a young woman.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone expects her to play that role. Most women in their 40s know what suits them, and they're more comfortable in their own skin. Yeah. And you can really see that in her. I mean, she just has that sort of Jackie O, style, that innate confidence. I know who I am. Yeah. I know what my strong points are. I know what my limitations are. She's very she's very comfortable, and that's sort of a lot of it, isn't it? Because you can be
and having
uncomfortable
a great figure
and wear the most beautiful dress, but if you don't feel happy in it and you don't feel like it suits you and you don't feel it, then you won't pull it off. But she's so confident in what she wears now. It almost doesn't really matter. When we had the Duchess of Sussex in around, with her, you always got the sense that she was wearing clothes almost as a way of promoting the brands, whereas I don't get that with Catherine at all. No. At all. I don't think that's why she does it.
Well, certainly not now. But interestingly, you mentioned Edeline Lee. Yeah. Claire, is there any other sort of newer names coming through in her wardrobe?
Zara.
That's not new.
I loved it when Catherine turned up at the university. I think it was Nottingham, and she was wearing that Cézanne woolen two-piece, and she got the tone just right. There were young women there, young people, all kind of milling around, and she walks in, and it's not like Catherine to be kind of overly fashionable, but she managed to hit just the right note with that outfit, because at that time when she visited, all the youngsters were wearing kind of woolen twin sets, whether they were short or long. And so that would have completely made them all fall in love with her. Even if they weren't interested in the royal family, they would be now.
She also does the thing that I think is the hardest thing to do, which is she does casual very well. I think it's really difficult to get, jeans and boots and a t-shirt right, but she really does get it right, doesn't she?
Yeah, there's that famous picture of someone like walking the dog in a coat and jeans, and she would look fantastic every time, Catherine. I look homeless when I take the dog for a walk.
So do I literally said that to someone yesterday.
My husband once walked past me. He was so embarrassed.
But I think the reason why she does it well is because that's instinctively her. She comes from a country background, and that's her comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I think she exudes that when she does that.
Yeah. Yeah. You really get the sense that she's actually genuinely very comfortable in a pair of jeans and a ghastly
probably
navy
prefers
waterproof.
it. I think she's she's got a real muddy wellies vibe about her, and I mean that in the nicest way.
Yeah, 100%.
And she will look fantastic. And there will be a picture of her.
What are the famous boots that she wears?
Is it Chameau?
The
green, the 180.
Penelope Chilvers.
Those ones she's had. Oh my God, she's had since year dot.
Yeah.
I think they've actually even dubbed those the Kate Middleton.
Yeah.
I tried a pair of those once because I obviously wanted to be Kate Middleton very much. Still do.
We all do.
My calves are too fat for them. They won't go up.
Honestly,
Penelope's missing a trick because if she should just do some with slightly bigger calves.
Well, I'll tell you,
I don't have that problem.
I'll have a word.
No, I was struggling to get my hunter wellies on the other day, and I was thinking, God, my calves can't be that big. I can't get my husband's.
Fashion show or therapy session. Come on. Rebecca, you've spoken before about Catherine's choice of designers, and she is keen, isn't she, to champion some of the smaller ones, which is why I'm disappointed that she doesn't want to sing about and praise the brands.
Yeah, because I remember when she wore Self-Portrait, and I'd never even heard of that brand before. And I was like, oh right, and then I looked on their website, I was like, oh my goodness. And I've told this story before, but I think it's worth telling again. I remember being contacted by a Welsh jewellery put my teeth back in, Welsh jewellery designer called Hayley, and she runs a company called Spells of Love, and Catherine had worn one of her pairs of earrings on a trip to Wales. I think they were probably between £40 and £60. And she was almost kind of crying and said, you don't understand what this has done for my business. It has sent it stratospheric. And I've kept in touch with her over the years, and she'll always kind of email me and say when she's wearing them again, and she's often rewears them when she goes to Wales. People can be a little bit condescending about fashion sometimes, but
this is why I want her to champion it, because it's a big industry for this country.
Exactly, I can just tell you from that one woman the difference it's made to her business, and it's a story I've heard time and time again, I have to say.
Now, you mentioned Self-Portrait there. There's also, that brand has become quite the favourite of Princess Beatrice, who she's had quite a fashion glow up.
She's had a real glow up.
Don't you think? What have you noticed about her lately, Rebecca?
Well, I was keen to mention her because I saw a picture of her the other day out with her husband, Edo.
Incredible.
And I'm sorry I don't know who the designer was, but in an all-cream outfit. Oh, was it Self-Portrait? It was Self-Portrait.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
She looked stunning, especially since she's only had a baby at the start of the year. And I just thought, what a difference from Pretzel Hat Gate, all those years ago where, bless her, she was much pilloried for her choice of hat, and actually showed a sense of humour about it, and went on to auction it for charity. I think it made about £80,000 for charity.
A fantastic move.
And said, well, I thought good for her, because I don't think any of us should underestimate how difficult it is to grow up in the public eye.
Impossible.
Especially as a woman, where your fashion choices are poured over, and in the age of social media are criticised in such a brutal way sometimes. And so, I'll be honest, I remember, I haven't had many conversations with Beatrice over the years, but I remember covering years ago when she was in her teens, an event with her mother, Sarah Duchess of York, and she was there. And she said, nice to meet you, I've heard about you, we'll have a chat. And at that time, she was getting criticised a lot for her weight in public. And she was talking to me about it and of how much it was crucified her. And I made a joke because I said, let's sit, there weren't any chairs, let's sit on this table. And I kind of jumped up on this table, and I didn't realise there was like a plastic cup underneath me, and it crumpled. And I said, well, talking about bums the size of China. And it kind of broke the ice, and we laughed. But she did say, how difficult it was. And I just think we shouldn't underestimate that.
Well, it's that thing of if you don't look the way that people expect you to look, then that's very difficult for people who grow up in the public eye. I think.
I will also say that I've seen Beatrice at a polo match, the only polo match I've ever been to, so it's not my thing. And I was absolutely flabbergasted at how beautiful she was. I couldn't get over. I was thinking the camera does not do you
She's
justice.
got a very
She's stunning,
like porcelain doll face.
Yeah,
She has.
she's very petite.
Yeah.
She's tiny, but so beautiful.
But what do you think? Because I believe is it a recent development? This stylist Olivia Buckingham. What do you think she's done that's made the difference?
Olivia's done everything. I mean, if I was famous or I needed an occasion dress, Olivia Buckingham would be my first port of call. I think she's incredible. She's done her kind of groundwork at Vogue in Hong Kong. She, she really knows her stuff. She looks beautiful all the time. I've never seen her in a bad outfit. She played an absolute blinder with Beatrice at the Jordanian wedding, where Beatrice walked out in that pale blue needle and thread dress. And it was like the light switched on with everybody. She looked incredible. And then she kind of topped that with the most beautiful dress in the evening. And then you've just seen her kind of gradually go up the fashion stakes every time she comes out in an outfit, whether it's self-portrait or Vampire's Wife.
But you see, that's the thing. I think that's why I love it so brilliant. Because she's done it very organically.
Yes.
So it feels like it's been a very natural progression, rather than just suddenly putting her in all of those things, which would have looked weird. But also, do you think that, with that guidance, but also just with, becoming an older woman and having children, he's more confident in herself. Yeah.
And those two things, like, instead started to enjoy dress and go hand in hand with that.
Yeah. And maybe, they have marriage.
He's so happy. I think he makes her very confident. Yeah. And Olivia finds shapes for Beatrice's tiny petite figure that really do her justice, like the self-portrait belts around her waist just accentuate how tiny she is. And then obviously the skirt or the dress is a little bit more forgiving and shape suits her perfectly. And Vampire's Life, the shapes so well. So Olivia has found the shapes that make Beatrice completely shine. And it's impeccable.
But that's the thing about gender, though, doesn't it, Rebecca? You were talking about like that. It's probably reminds us that not all the royals get all the help in that department that a lot of people might assume.
No, and I always say this, you'll be surprised how small their staff are.
And their budget, who pays for the clothes?
Well, if it's official functions, there will be an official budget for it, but they're very, very careful about what's official and what's personal. And they'll often be, they might wear something from their personal wardrobe in public.
Do they have a seamstress?
That's what I was just about.
Well, they have their in-house seamstresses, and they all do. But I also know in Catherine's case, she has an external seamstress who actually completely made a dress from scratch to her when we visited Canada several years ago. And everyone was very keen to find out who they were. And I'll be honest, no one ever has. So.
Really?
There's a job for you. We sent you on another job this week, didn't we? As promised earlier, Rebecca took a trip to a royal palace for a very special new exhibition. I'll leave it to her to explain.
We often talk on this channel about what goes on inside royal palaces, but today we're going to take you inside one. I'm here at Kensington Palace, which has been home to members of the royal family for generations, including the current residents, the Prince and Princess of Wales. And we're here for an exclusive sneak preview of a very special exhibition on royal fashion. So let's go inside and take a look. Appearance is everything when it comes to what members of the royal family wear, as well as those around them. And a really special exhibition here at Kensington Palace, home of the Prince and Princess of Wales, brings together some exquisite, never seen before items from the Royal Ceremonial Dress Collection in an exhibition in...
Subscribe for more updates and enjoy your video.
titled Dress Codes. I'm here with Matthew Story, who is the curator of the Royal Ceremonial Dress Collection. You've amalgamated over many months, haven't you, this most incredible collection of priceless and historic royal outfits. What's the theme of what you're doing here?
We wanted to show the best of the Royal Ceremonial Dress Collection, which is a collection of about 10,000 items of clothing worn at the royal court or by members of the royal family. So I thought, what theme can tie that together? And we thought dress codes. Because all of us, every day, we get dressed in the morning and we think about what we're trying to communicate with our clothes, whether that's our age, our place in society. Some people don't get to choose what they wear because they wear a uniform for work or for school. So I thought dress codes is something that everyone can relate to. And it's perfect for a collection which is all about ceremonial clothing or clothing worn at great royal events where getting the dress code right is so important.
And of course, none more so than for members of the royal family, surely. You know, there is quite a strict code in what they have to do when they're going about diplomatic business.
Well, I always say members of the royal family have to dress up almost every day for their work to the level that you and I only ever do for weddings. They have to dress beautifully. And as you say, sometimes that is very important indeed. If you take, for instance, overseas visits, they're really important diplomatic events and every single aspect of the wardrobe will be planned in advance. That can be very practical. You've got to dress for the climate of the country you're going to. You've got to dress in the correct clothes for all the activities you're going to do. But it's also about cultural diplomacy as well. So in the Dress Codes exhibition, we have a beautiful dress designed by Bruce Oldfield for Diana, Princess of Wales, for a 1986 visit to Saudi Arabia. So it's a perfect 80s evening dress. It's got shoulder pads, drop waist, beautiful beaded bodice, full length, but it's also got long sleeves and a high neck, so it's absolutely appropriate for her Saudi Arabian hosts.
Well, I was going to say, because she would have to exude glamour, but also a modest type of glamour as well.
She's representing Britain abroad, and actually Diana always got her wardrobe perfect. Whatever the event, she dressed perfectly for it.
She was spot on, wasn't she? I'll be honest, Matthew, I'm beyond excited to be able to stand by some of Diana, Princess of Wales's outfit, because I think, like a lot of people my age, I grew up with her as you know, as an icon. So to be, and this is the joy of coming to an exhibition at Kensington Palace, you are literally within touching distance, admittedly with some glass between you, with the outfit, so you can see this incredible attention to detail. So can you tell me a little bit about these two particular outfits?
Well, clothes bring you very close to the person. I think that's something that's really powerful about fashion exhibitions. So this piece was worn in 1986 on a very cold day, which is why it's a thick wool, to launch the cruise liner Royal Princess, named in Diana, Princess of Wales's honour. It was designed by one of her favourite designers, Jasper Conran. And you can see you've got the little brass buttons there with an anchor motif. So absolutely perfect for the nautical theme of the event. And bright red as well. You look at other photos on the day, you've got these huge crowds who've turned up to see her, and she is standing out, and that's that very, very clever clothing choice.
I have to say, I particularly love the green velvet tuxedo look evening dress, because that really is so epitomises Diana, Prince of Wales, in the last years of her life, where she was this confident, independent woman out there on the international stage in her own right.
And that dress was designed by Catherine Walker, so another very fascinating, very confident, very creative woman who really shaped Diana, Princess of Wales's style. She's a very intelligent, very inquisitive designer, and I think you can see that in that green velvet dress and the way it combines two dress codes for evening wear. So it's a long, elegant, very feminine evening dress in that green velvet, but with that masculine tuxedo detail and a halter neck. It's bringing two codes of evening wear together in a really creative way.
You've got these two beautiful Liberty print dresses belonging to Queen Elizabeth, then Princess Elizabeth, and Princess Margaret from the 1930s. I mean, they are adorable.
They are so lovely. And I think a lot of people can relate to those little childhood clothes. And the fact they're matching as well. And it's a real feature of Elizabeth and Margaret that they were always dressed in very similar and very often completely identical dresses. I think a lot of people with siblings can relate to that. And when you start looking at those dresses, you get an insight into the household that Queen Elizabeth II grew up in, because that bigger dress that belonged to her has been taken up
for
at the
more
hem,
updates
and
and
then
enjoy your
panels have been
video.
added at the bodice. So it's been made bigger for a growing child. It's also a lot more washed. And so when I've seen that with people who grew up with a younger sister, or actually an older sister, they think that was probably handed down.
It was definitely the hand-me-down, wasn't it? And you don't appreciate it until you come to an exhibition like this and you can see it so close up. You can see where the material is slightly faded or it's been patched or darned. I mean, to be able to see that granular level of detail is just remarkable.
And it speaks about the kind of household they grew up in as well. We know little Princess Elizabeth even saved wrapping paper for reuse. So she grew up in this quite thrifty household, but that's very 1930s as well. People knew how to make things last, especially clothing. They valued their clothing and they had the skills as well to repair and to modify their clothes. We're always talking about sustainability in fashion today as if it's new, but actually we just have to relearn what that generation knew and did every single day.
Absolutely. Well, I've been in and out of Kensington Palace many times over the years, but that was a real treat, even for me. And hopefully for you, it means when you see members of the royal family out and about, you'll realise that often there's more to their outfits than meets the eye.
Well, you can visit that excellent exhibition at Kensington Palace until the 30th of November 2025. Now, Rebecca, I know you've seen some of these things before, but it's still... It's a real treat, isn't it, to see that stuff up close?
I cannot tell you the thrill it is standing next to that iconic Catherine Walker green tuxedo dress of Diana, Princess of Wales. When you see that, and you realise what it said about her life and where she was at the time, because it's quite daring when you see it in the flesh. It's very cut away at the back. She's showing off those Jim Mahone shoulders, and you can see that she was wearing it at a very positive time in her life. So that is a real thrill to see.
Was that a highlight for you?
It's one of the highlights, but there's two things I really loved. So there is this incredible mourning bodice worn by Queen Victoria. And it's amazing because it's got all this fringing at the bottom. So you can see, even though within the kind of shroud of mourning, she still had an idea of fashion and those little fripperies that made her feel good. And there's a very iconic dress with the white cap that we always remember about her. I'm trying to think how I put it politely, but you can see the girth of this outfit.
She was absolutely spherical, wasn't she?
Yes, she was. And as the curator, Matthew, said to me, it's the nearest you'll come as a modern day punter to feeling what it was like to stand in front of Queen Victoria and how imposing.
I've seen this as well, and it really is like, you can almost see the outline of the person.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
And
She always reminds me of Mrs. Tiggywinkle.
Yeah.
Yes, I know what you mean, yes. And that's American
that's nice.
But I think actually my really fun one, aside from the outfits from, Princess Margaret and the Queen, which are darned and they're washed and they're faded, I really love the Duke of Windsor, Edward VIII's suits, and Jo would so wear one of those suits. She was amazing. There was a time suit there that I would have on. Yeah. At Harvey, and I could see you in it. And there's a couple of nice stories about there. He didn't say fashionable. He liked his family coming in American style around braces, but his son Rose Taylor would be naked. Yes, so they took a very review. Yeah, they took the trousers in one face and coats in the other. And then one of his suits, it was that kind of effective, which I think people can see things with him will immediately resonate with them. So they've got turn-ups, which were a very modern and newfangled invention. And apparently Father King George VI, just like all parents, hated him. When he came to live once, he went, wearing stupid thing. He didn't rent it, they're there to catch the water. So I love the idea that even members of the royal family, kings and princes of Wales, are still having the same rounds that we do. Are you going out like that?
As my son, are you going to pull your trousers up so I can't see your pants?
We've all been there as children and also as parents, and I love the fact that they now do the same thing.
I'll tell you what I love. So obviously alongside Diana, which is one of the people celebrated, is the late Queen's sister, Princess Margaret.
I think Princess Margaret, I think to keep them. There's Captain, musty, cigarette, a cocktail in hand. She's super studious and all that kind of. She was absolutely at the heart of all that. She was so sort of louche in a way. I mean,
very louche.
She was very, very louche, wasn't she? She was the fun sister. She was the you know, she was the fun.
I think
When
their
the
father,
spare was being fun.
Yeah,
I think-
exactly. When it
Yeah.
wasn't being miserable.
Yeah, yeah.
didn't their father, George VI, say that Elizabeth was his pride and Margaret was his joy?
Yes.
And I've always remembered that.
Yeah.
And I think, she was probably quite a lot of fun at parties.
And I was going to say the Historic Royal Palace's curator, Matthew, was saying that he was so keen to get some of her clothes there because obviously she lived in Kensington Palace, it was her home. And you can kind of imagine her sitting there at the piano surrounded by a group of adoring men by candlelight, singing the cigarette and everything. And it just felt so resonant of her.
There is the most joyful, speaking of joy, dress from hers that she wore in the Philippines.
Yes, that one. Was
It is.
beautiful.
Oh, I know that
It's
one.
delightful.
Yes.
Yeah. You've got to see this exhibition, everybody. It's really great. Then there's also uniforms in this exhibition, isn't there? There's some of them are extraordinary. The detail that I hadn't really factored in it goes into the thinking about how they're designed.
Yeah, because the theme of the exhibition is dress code and how that shapes not just dress code for the members of the royal family, but the people around them and how that shapes their lives. And you're right. I mean, there was one uniform, talking about make, do, amend, on display that was actually constantly adjusted, and it was in use for, I think, 100 years or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was amazing. So we have people around the royal family that have to wear a uniform, but I think what it emphasises is also the royal family have developed a uniform for themselves as well.
Yeah, and we're recording this as the Cheltenham Horse Racing Festival takes place. So has anyone caught your eye this week, Claire?
Zara, always Zara at the races.
Not Zara at the shop?
Zara Tyndall,
Right.
always aces the races. She has a stylist. She has Annie Mayall, who helps her and guides her through her wardrobe for all the races, Cheltenham, and I think Anne Ascot too. She's just become the ambassador for Fairfax and Favour. You know, those kind of military style fitted coats, which I think is her best look with a pair of knee-length boots. I think she's fabulous there. The hats, always kind of, she seems to get right now. There were some dodgy ones in the kind of late 90s, but that kind of found its way back. And I think yesterday when she was twinning with Princess Eugenie, they were twinning in Burgundy, and then Natalie Pinkham walks up. She'd obviously got the memo too, because she was in Burgundy, like yourself, Jay. And the three of them kind of posed together, and it was lovely. And you know, I do always wonder what she's going to come out with next, because she looks great.
Is there a set sort of royal code for horse race events, Rebecca, when it comes to the royals?
Well, the thing is, they eat, sleep and breathe horses, all of them, to a lesser or greater extent. So they all know. And actually, Cheltenham's kind of dress code is
Tweed.
is smart, is tweed. It's less formal in some ways than Ascot, but it's a different kind of formality. It's a more of a countryside look.
I think, as Princess Anne would say, just dress warm.
Yes.
Just dress warm.
Yeah.
I think Zara Tyndall always looks like she's a lot of fun.
She's the girl that I always want to go out with.
Well,
yeah.
and in a sign of her sort of like more rebellious side, apparently she was seen wearing some dark nail polish at Cheltenham.
Yes.
I know, sharp
I'm just
intake
going to
of
put my
breath.
hand
Put your hands away, Rebecca.
Jezebel.
Because that's quite a departure for a royal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a no-no. Queen thought bright nail varnish was quite vulgar. She liked the royal women to be kind of colour-free on their nails, so it was always like a soft pink. So I went through 1,000 pictures yesterday to see if I could ever catch the Queen wearing nail varnish of a bright colour. Nothing.
No, I do think that's a generational thing, though. I think that generation really thought that red nail varnish was associated with ladies of a certain loose nature.
Party girls.
Yes,
Rebecca.
Yes. She says wearing
You know me
pants
too
and nails.
well. But also I think it's a practicality as well. And the Queen Elizabeth just wasn't the type that would, upkeep her nail varnish, because she had the dogs and the horses.
But
she was pre-shellac, guys.
Yes, yes.
Well, there's that as well.
Yeah.
But it's true that, people really deferred to her on that, didn't they? She was a really strong influence.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, occasionally we would see the odd breakout. We've definitely seen, Catherine wearing dark nail varnish occasionally over the years, meant to be for more evening functions and things like that, but very few and far
Do
between.
you spend a lot of time scrutinising the royal nails?
I don't, and actually it's quite rare you've got me in nail varnish, because normally I don't have the time to do it either. So
Do you think they were in nail varnishes in the same category as tattoos? What do you think?
I would
funny,
say it's up
actually.
there.
Well, funny you should say that. The royal family have been known to have tattoos. I can't remember
Who's
which.
got a tattoo?
No, usually
Was
it's
it
got one just behind her ear.
And I think it might have been George V. Someone's going to correct me.
George V had a tattoo.
Because as Prince, I think it was either George V or maybe Edward. Anyway, they went to the Far East as Prince of Wales, and they've got a massive dragon tattoo.
Well, like a sleeve.
Yeah,
It's just-
basically.
That is such a cliche thing to do, isn't it?
Your gap year, on your gap year, come back
Do you
with a
think
dodgy
do
tattoo.
you think they had that thing where they had some Chinese writing that secretly says, I am an idiot?
Or
Yeah, or banana.
I'm absolutely shocked. I mean, I'm not
It's true. It's true. It's a really well-known story. I'm so sorry.
Next,
I
you'll be
can't.
telling us that
Edward
Queen
VIII.
Victoria had a
It is.
tattoo.
No, definitely not.
George V confirming.
Right,
Yeah.
well, you
There you
see,
go,
my
you see.
memory doesn't let me
Wow.
down.
Oh my God. Well, here's another little mischievous story here that we're going to turn to. And that's Claire has got up on her page about how Catherine has inspired a certain Spice Girls fashion choices.
Yeah, we spotted on the Commonwealth Thanksgiving service that Jerry Horner, used to be Halliwell Ginger Spice, turned up in an almost identical white Jenny Packham dress that Catherine wore to the Trooping the Colour last year. And it just made us look through the picture kind of files to see if there were any other similarities. And yes, there are quite a few. They both have the same almost identical Jane Taylor hats, which are cream with a black bows. The netting, they have the hairbands with the netting. Birdcage veils, they're called, sorry. And there's about 4 or 5 outfits which are almost identical. A one-sleeve gown, you know, the one that Catherine wore to the BAFTAs. Jerry, almost identical.
Well, Jerry has kind of like gone posh in recent years,
Yeah,
hasn't she?
and I think she's looking towards Catherine as a kind of a style guru, I suppose.
There are worse influences.
I mean, their height difference would be quite different, but their fashion sense is almost it's very strange. But they're style sisters.
Well,
really,
check that out on Mail Online.
It'll make you laugh.
Yeah,
It will make you laugh.
I'm sure we can put a link to that.
I
in
actually
the
think
show
that
notes.
Catherine would look quite nice in Victoria Beckham stuff, don't you?
I really do.
Yes.
Yeah.
that would
Worn
be
it.
great to see. No, I don't
She's
think
worn
she
a jumper, I
Yeah,
think.
but
She's worn a
nothing formal.
jumper.
Yeah.
But I would love to see
Yeah.
Catherine. And I would also like to see her at London Fashion Week, maybe sitting like the Queen did with Richard Quinn. I think Catherine should support our industry, our fashion industry.
I agree with you, but given recent statements about not wanting to talk
I know.
about brands, I think that's unlikely.
Well,
Don't
I
start
think
with that on Joe.
Yeah, no,
It's a bit of a
honestly,
hobby
it
horse
doesn't
for me.
as it's such a huge
Yeah.
kind of, it's a massive event in London and in the UK when we have our fashion shows, and the Queen recognised that, and she went with Angela Kelly, didn't she? And they were great pictures. It was brilliant.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, presumably she'd just be interested. I mean, if I had the chance, presumably she could just ring anyone up and say,
Even
hello,
if it
can I
was a
come to
young
your show?
designer
I'd
fashion
love to do
award.
that. And I'm
I
not, particularly interested in fashion, but I'd love to go to the shows.
I would bet vast sums of money that the British Fashion Council is working on that as we speak. So you never know. You might see it
she
one
should
day.
go.
I have to
Definitely.
say, when Queen Elizabeth went, I mean, I only had about an hour or so notice to get there. And yeah, she went, and there was Anna Wintour there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of commentary of she didn't take her glasses off. But it was Richard Quinn, wasn't it, the
Yeah.
designer, because they were sponsoring a fashion award
Exactly.
in Queen Elizabeth's name. So Angela Kelly actually personally persuaded her to go. And she'd never been on the Fro before. And I remember they had this huge, like, banging music, really loud, and kind of people walking up and down in kind of helmets and stuff. And the Queen just sitting there just going, like that.
But she did
And
smile,
I've
didn't
no
she?
idea
Well,
what she
that is a very good, well-rehearsed fashion face.
I know.
That's
I've
great.
no idea what she thought of it. But
What's
it
your
was-
fashion face?
it
Because
was-
you go to the shows, don't you?
Yeah, well, I used to, but yeah, you
What was your
you just
fashion
have to look attentive,
Okay.
because there was a solid rumor that went around Milan that one particular designer, who I won't name, would video the front row, and if you didn't look like you were attentive enough, you would have a stern talking to. That never happened, but I was chastened enough by the rumor to always be.
Yeah, I'm watching.
It's not an easy business,
Do
is
their
it, Jo?
stylists go to the shows? Does Olivia go to the shows?
Yes, she does.
She must do, yeah.
Yeah,
so-
yeah. I mean, she dresses Poppy Delavigne as well,
Yeah.
who never puts a foot wrong. So, yeah, I would definitely, if I was famous, Olivia Buckingham would be sitting next to me, telling me what to
100%.
buy.
Well, we mentioned Cheltenham earlier on, so here is, to wrap up the show, a montage of some of our favourite pictures of the royals there over the years. Now, let us know your favourites in the comments below, and let us know what you think of this sort of show too. We've had a lot of fun making it, and I hope you've enjoyed watching it. And a reminder though, just to subscribe to the Daily Mail Royals if you don't already, and check out all the great royal content on the royal section of the Daily Mail website. There's so much there, and it's updated every day by long-suffering Claire here.
She's the best in the business. She really is.
Now, just time to say my thanks to Rebecca, Claire and Sarah, and to you, of course, for watching, and we will see you soon. Goodbye.